Hey y'all, what's going on? This is your girl Mai. I am here with another installment of My Thinks, and I am sitting here processing through some thoughts that part of me wants to share, part of me does not. But as usual, I feel like everything that I am thinking about and experiencing can be helpful to somebody else. So, with that in mind, this is for all of my um, divorced girlies, and I guess this could be open to men, but because I'm a woman, I don't know if men can relate, but if you can, then this is for you too. Um, but for all of my divorced uh, folks, um, and I guess I'm specifically saying divorced because I think being single without being married has a different element to it. But being once married and then divorced, that gives another element of things to consider. So I have been sitting in this spot because I am trying my hardest to declutter my life in many different ways. I declutter my life where I have papers all over the place that I need to go through. Um, all of my email accounts, don't judge me, but I have multiple email accounts and they're all flooded. Um, and so that's weighing on my mind. I have so many things on my to-do list to do. I'm frustrated because my current job, where I'm thankful that I have a job, it's a little difficult because the hours that I have, it wipes me out and I'm exhausted. So I haven't really been able to put as much focus on finding a job as I would like to. And so I'm trying to move through that, but most of my days I just feel stuck, like tired, stuck, like where I'm just so tired that I can't do anything. So between my grandfather's funeral, then to my graduation, which both had me out of town, then coming back each of those times to work, to my crazy hours, to my daughter's graduation last week, to back to work. I feel completely depleted, like I'm so tired. But some of the things that I've been thinking about that I wanted to share is I'm in this space of limbo, of school is over, talking to many different people. It's this idea that keeps being brought to me of are you happy about, graduating? Like, how do you feel now? And just this idea of I just moved on to the next thing. I'm trying to be mindful and sit in the reality that I finished school, sit in the reality that I did everything, and that the toll that it took on me, and the process and the determination and the assignments and all of these things where I'm wow, I actually did that. So I have been taking moments and reminding myself to sit in that. And then, but it's this thing of oh my gosh, when is my change gonna come? You know what I'm saying? I'm in this gray area of I'm not where I used to be, but I'm not quite where I want to be. And just that in between of I'm trying to be grateful of what I've experienced and where what I've come through. But I'm also okay, but I want things to start moving now. And so this one is just a documentation of I'm not always going to be in this place. You know what I'm saying? There's always an in-between time. And I'm not always going to be here. I'm trying to prioritize rest. I'm trying to take time to really sit and pay attention to what I'm grateful for, and really try to map out where I see myself going. But I'm also frustrated with the fact that it's taking very long. And then the other part that I wanted to share, because I don't know if anybody can relate to that, so I'm trying to encourage myself in the in between. The other thing that I just realized when my family was here, some of my family anyway, we went to the beach. And to me, this is a funny story, but it's also like, and this is where the divorce part comes in at, that I mentioned in the beginning. We go to the beach, and my son was fascinated, because we're not beach people. Let me just say that. We're not beach people. We don't go to the beach. And if we do, like times that I'll go by myself, I've gone with my kids sporadically here and there. We really just sit on the sand and just experience the sound of the waves and the sand, and we may play games or whatever, but we haven't gotten in the water. You know what I'm saying? Like, as I've been an adult, as even my kids being small, like that's never a thing that we've ever done, is like go to the beach and like really get in the water and play and all that stuff. We've never done that. But this time we actually did. So we go to the beach, and I'm actually proud of that, because I'm like, I've wanted to do that. And anyway, not important. So we go to the beach, and we are, my son is fascinated with the waves, and he's seeing like a whole bunch of kids. There was a bunch of kids that had, and I'm going to call them boogie boards. I don't know if that's what they're called, but they had like this thing that ties onto their wrist, and it's like this square kind of shaped thing where they would run out and like sit and wait for the wave to come. And then they would turn around to where their back was facing the wave, and then they would ride the wave in, to the shore. And so he was like, he wanted to do it, but he didn't, I was like, I'm not paying for, like, I don't even know how you would do it. So while we were there was this man that, like, at one point my son had to use the restroom, and we've never been to this particular beach before, so we didn't know where anything was. So from the moment we got there, I was looking for a bathroom, because I wanted to use the bathroom. And I saw this building that was really, really far away, and I was like, I would be very upset if I get all the way over there and there's no bathroom. So anyway, at this point, I don't know if my son was asking for me, but then I also think, like, at a certain point he had to use the restroom. So there was this white guy sitting on the sand, and my son came back and was like, oh, the bathroom is this way. And I'm like, how did you know the bathroom was that way? And he was like, oh, the man, just, he points to the man, and he's like, the man told me where the beach was. And the reason why I'm smiling, and the reason why I even mentioned that he was white, is because he was a fine white guy. Like, he was really cute. So, and anybody who grew up with me and knows me knows that, like, my first crushes were white guys, or white kids. So anyway, so my son, for whatever reason, keeps talking to this man. And, it gets to a point where the man lets him use, the man's name is Rudy. I'm gonna say his name. His name is Rudy. So my son, somehow he starts talking to this guy, and the guy let him use his surfboard. And I was like, wow, like, okay. So then I'm talking so I go up to the guy, and I'm like, thank you for letting my son, blah, 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 whatever. And so he's like, what's your son's name? So I tell him what my son's name is. And he's like, oh, wow, okay. And then he's like, yeah, I was talking to him, and I was like kind of showing. So he shows me this video on his phone of like how to do it. And he was like, no, it's no problem. Like, I don't have a problem with him using it, whatever. So then my son goes out, but he doesn't know how to do it, right? So then the guy comes back, and he's like, so somehow we end up talking to the guy again. And so the guy shows him the video again, and then he was like, I'm just going to walk. Like, so we started walking towards the water so that he can physically show him how to do it. So then the guy walks away, and there's this other woman who's there with her kids. And so I'm like so she's like, oh, he found a board. And I'm like, well, the guy let him use it, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, but I'm nervous because my son is not a strong swimmer. And with these waves, like, if this board goes out, I don't want him to lose this man's board. So then the woman is like, oh, that's an expensive board. Like, that's a nice board. And I don't know anything about ski, what do you call it? Snow, whatever you call it. Like, I'm tired. Oh my gosh, what is it? Surfboard. So I'm like, I don't know anything about surfboards. So he is, he's trying to do it. He's not doing it. I'm like, no, we need to give this back, because there's no string. This is like an official surfboard. And I'm like, no. So I go back to the guy and I'm like, no, I really appreciate you letting him use it. But like, if this surfboard goes out, like, he's not a strong swimmer. He's not going to be able to get it. Like, that just makes me nervous. And he was like, well, I do have another one that has something that he can, hold on to or whatever. I don't mind going to get it. And where he was sitting and then where he was pointing to, I was like, that's really far. Like, I don't want to interrupt your relaxation for you to go get this board. He was like, no, I'm just chilling, whatever. So the moral of this story is, when we leave the beach, right? So the man is like, what's your son's name? I tell him. He's like, what's your name? I tell him. He's like, oh, where are you from? I tell him. The only thing that I remember asking him was his name. So then, and forgive me for I keep sniffing because my allergies are acting up, so forgive me for that. But so anyway, after the whole thing is over, I'm talking to my cousin, and my cousin is like, so they were laughing because I had said his name, and they were like, Rudy, like, his name, whatever. So then my cousin was saying that he was from Ohio or something like that. And I was like, but then something clicked in my mind, because at the time I was like, how do y'all know he's from Ohio? But it dawned on me, and this is a realization that I'm coming to, that like, I say that I'm ready for, or I would like to have a friend, somebody to hang out with and date, whatever. But this moment highlighted for me that I'm really not ready to date, because it never dawned on me to have a conversation with this man. Like, it never like, he's asking me all of these questions, and it never dawned on me to be like, oh, so where are you from? And like, oh, you said you're here with your sons, like, where are you from? Do you have twins? Like, how are they both in high school? Like, I don't know if he was saying one son, but I thought he said his sons, as in plural, for that they were there for their senior trip. And I'm just like, and this is not to say that this man was interested in me. I really don't think that he was. However, if he was, there's a possibility that he would not have gone any further, because he could have thought that I wasn't interested because I did not engage in a conversation. And I'm like, dang, like, he was really talking to me, and I really not one time thought about, like, curious about him. And like, so it just is. So the whole point of this is like, for those of you that are divorced, and and I've been single for a long time, so it's not even like this is new, you know what I'm saying? But the process of life happens, and time just is what it is. And not to say that I haven't been involved with anyone since I got divorced, but my thought process is like, for those of you who are divorced and who, like, did you experience that? Like, where you, like, how do you get to a point where you, like, did you feel comfortable, like, engaging with the opposite sex to, like, try to date them? Or did you, like, what was that process like for you, is what I'm asking. That's what I'm curious. Because nobody really, or at least I haven't heard anybody talk about that. Where it's like, you're so used to being someone's spouse, and you're so used to, like, not thinking about anyone else. Like, you're not trying to, like, holler at anybody. You're not interested in anybody. But, like, how does that process work? Because then the other side of it is like, okay, well, now that I know, and now that I'm aware that I just, did not engage in any type of conversation with this person to, like, really get to know them, or show on some level that I was interested, or whatever the case is. Like, how do you get to that place? Because now that it's been brought to my attention, that I had that epiphany where it was like, oh shoot, like, you didn't ask this man anything about himself. Like, how do you expect to meet people or even start the process of dating if you're not talking to anybody? So, but then that makes me scared, because I'm like, So now if I talk to somebody and I start asking these questions, then that could potentially lead to me dating somebody or exchanging numbers with somebody. And there's a fear there where it's like, I don't know if I'm ready for all of that. And so there's a large part of me that feels like I'm supposed to be single right now. There's a large part of me that's like, okay, there's some things, more things that I need to learn about myself and all of that stuff. But yeah, so this is just a moment of me processing, but I'm just curious for those of you that may watch this, if you are divorced, if you're not dating, if you're single, or even if you are dating, what was that process like for you? And it's weird because I feel like all of my dating experiences were when I was like a teenager, when I was younger. And I honestly don't remember me and how I was with guys before I got saved and before I started going to church. I don't remember that version of me. I really don't. And then I was married like legally for 16 years. So, and I wasn't looking at no men. I wasn't thinking about no men. Like that wasn't a thing. And then even the situation that I had out like after marriage, it was just two friends reconnecting. Like it wasn't even like I went out and met a stranger and you know what I'm saying? It wasn't like that. So I'm just curious, like, and it just was mind blowing of like, wow, like you really are just not, I don't know if it's, I was just not interested. I mean, cause he was cute. He was very cute. And again, he could have been married for all I know. Like, I don't think he was interested in me, but it's just the thought of it where it's like, oh my gosh, like you really didn't try to shoot your shot. So yeah, I think that's funny because I've been so in like this, like I'm cool peoples, they cool peoples, like we friends. I'm not looking at people like I'm trying to date them. And so I'm just curious again, if you even made it all the way to the end of this, what was that process like for you? And, was it easy for you to do? Like, was it a matter of it didn't happen until you were actually ready? And the reason why you knew you were ready was because you shot your shot and because you started talking to people and asking questions and getting to know people? Or was it something that somebody else had to point out to you that you did it reluctantly because you were afraid, but then you did it and was like, oh, that's fine. It was fine. It did, it wasn't as scary as I thought it was going to be. So anyway, that's my question. Yeah, so I'm curious if anyone who sees this, if you've had experience with this and how you navigated it. Anyway, until another video.